In this lesson, we're going to talk about property taxes. This is kind of a strange lesson in that I don't believe you'll ever be making these calculations. Okay, if you think back to the previous lessons, we did things like insurance and mortgages and things like that. Those are calculations you're going to have to make. Those are things that you're going to have to decide: can I afford this? Can I not buy this? But the reality is, property tax. Once you own a property, you're paying tax. You have no choice. You have no, there's no time where you need to calculate what it is. You're going to get a letter in the mail saying you owe this much money. So it's a bit of a strange lesson that we're going to spend the time going over this when you're never going to make this calculation. Okay, but maybe it's more for information. So property taxes are taxes that are collected to pay for the municipality. And in our municipality is the City of Winnipeg. Alright, the City of Winnipeg collects taxes through property tax. Alright, and if you own property, you pay tax. It's that simple. Taxes are due June 30th every year, although you can, if you choose to, you can do something called tips, which lets you pay every month. What do the taxes go for? Taxes pay for things like fire, police, ambulance, some of these jobs like food inspectors, restaurant inspectors, all these kinds of things, transportation, snow removal. You often hear that, when it snows a lot, that hurts the city budget. That's what's going on there. So the city collects taxes to pay for all this stuff. The city actually also collects taxes based on your property for school, but we're not going to talk about that in this lesson. Money used for the upkeep of the city comes from property tax. Okay, in order to calculate the amount of property tax, the city first will decide what is their budget. What do they need to spend money on? How much are they going to budget for snow repair, for police force, all those kinds of things. So the city decides how much money they need, so they make a budget. Okay, then they will subtract any money that's coming in through things like licenses, fines, and grants, although those aren't going to be the majority. And the remaining dollars is needed to be raised through property tax. Okay. The taxable property assessment. Property is assessed. So if you own a house, there is an assessment made. What is it worth? Okay. And then a portion of that value, usually 45%, is what gets taxed. It's kind of a shell game there. The reality is, the more the value is worth, the more you're going to be taxed. It's pretty much that simple. Okay? So, let's look at some questions. A homeowner has a house worth $167,900 and the land is worth $56,900. I always laugh at that. Really, what's the point of telling me that the house is different than the land? You can't buy the house with buying the land. This goes together. I remember going to see a new house one time, and they were offering the house at a certain price, and I said, oh, that's actually a pretty good price. And he goes, oh, the agent said, well, that's the price of the house, but that doesn't include the portion of the land. And I said, well, can I buy the house without the land? And he said, no, you need to pay for the land too. So let's put that together. The total market value, $167,900 plus $56,900 is $224,800. Okay, now remember I said that once you know what your value is, you only pay on a portion of that, part of it. What is the portion? It's 45% of $224,800. And remember, 45% of means we go 45 divided by 100 times, and we get $101,160. So that's how much you're going to pay tax on. Okay, that's the first part of calculating property tax. Now, the next question is, what rate do you pay tax on? Some areas of the city pay a higher tax rate than others. Okay, and we have to calculate what's called the mill rate. The mill rate comes from the Latin or French word for 1,000, which is mill. Okay, how do you get the property tax rate? Well, this is another thing that you will never be calculating. It's the amount of money required. So the city or the area will decide we need to raise this much money. Okay, and then they divide that by what is the total portioned assessment So in other words, what is the property value worth in the area? And then they multiply that by 1,000. That's how you calculate the mill rate. Okay, I'd put that in your cheat sheet. There may be a question like that. I'll show you an example. The City of Winnipeg needs $9 million. So they've decided their budget is $9 million to raise from property tax, and the total portioned assessment. So this is what the value of the property in that area is. So what is the mill rate? Okay, so how do you calculate the mill rate? You divide what you have to budget for by what is the portioned assessment. Oops, sorry, let me fix that. And multiply it by 1,000. And what do you get? You get 35.7 mils. Now that seems like, what the heck is 35.7 mils? All right, well, here's how you use it. So we're going to calculate the property tax for this property right here. Okay, so the property is 101,160. So that's the portioned assessment. And now we take the mills, okay, and we're going to multiply that by 35.7 and divide this by 1,000. So what we're saying is you're going to pay $35.70 for every $1,000 of your house. Okay, and if you multiply this, you end up, your tax bill would be $3,611.41. Okay, so that's mill rate. That's how it's used. So let's try putting it all together. There are 4 basic steps to calculating property tax. Calculate the total assessment. Okay, this is the house plus land. Calculate the portioned assessment. Okay, so this is 45% of the total assessment. Okay, and then you're going to divide it by 1,000, and then you multiply the answer by the mill rate. Okay, so let's try doing that. City of Winnipeg has set the mill rate, so it's figured out what the mill rate's going to be. Your property is valued at $35,000 and $198,000. What's your property tax? So first step, calculate what your property is valued in total. Okay, that's $233,000. And you guys should try this on your own before you watch the video. Okay, now we're going to take 45% of that. Okay, and if you multiply that, you end up with $105,210. Okay, now we divide the portioned assessment by 1,000. So we go 105,210 divided by 1,000. Okay, and then we multiply that by the mill rate times 23.2. And we end up with taxes of $2,440.87. Okay, so that's what you're going to have to do. Why don't you try a few of these questions? This is your homework.